Damen und Herren, zur Linken und zur Rechten. Es ist 11 Uhr 22 und 8, 9, 10 Sekunden. Ich begrüße euch recht herzlich. Und ich begrüße euch recht herzlich. Oder auch nicht. Zu Stanley Parable. Oder vielleicht doch zu 2170. Schöne Zeit, schöne Zeit. Ich freue mich.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Ja, gut, ne? Wir wissen ja, was passiert, also gehen wir einfach mal durch. Schauen wir mal, was passiert. Ich meine, wir wissen ja, dass nichts passiert. Also machen wir jetzt das, was er von uns erwartet.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Jawohl. Dann machen wir das doch mal, ne? Dann können wir soweit ein paar Story, wir müssen uns ja nicht schon mal alles anschauen.
Yet there was not a single person here either.
Chocolates,
Feeling a
the
wave of
unbelievable amazing world all the time
disbelief,
every
Stanley
day.
decided to
With
go
no
up to
expectation
his
of
boss's
promotion,
office,
dort wir
hoping he
vertreten
might
nicht
find an
dazwischen.
answer there.
Ach, gehen wir zum Büro. How to solve a dispute with a coworker. Ah, okay. Oh, warte, die geht. LOL.
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was
Warte,
nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
Ja.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Nee. Alter, hab ich mich gerade innerlich erschrocken, als hier was Rotes sah. Ja, ohne Spaß. Ui, ich bin rotes Licht. Feuerhaus. Ich bin ein Auto.
But Stanley just couldn't do it.
Nee.
He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just...
Diese Musik macht mich wahnsinnig.
He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his
Ich hab
skin,
Angst vor Schwarz,
the
ey.
press
Ohne
of the
Spaß.
mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
Oh Gott. Nein. Nicht schon wieder.
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone wake me up.
Musik.
My name is Stanley.
Oh.
I have a boss. I have an office.
Ja.
I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
Und schon wieder.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
Was? Oh Gott.
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy, this much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Das Spiel macht mich fertig, ne? Ich weiß, wenn diese panische Musik kommt. Alter, und diese Türen immer im Schloss. Wenn es schwarz wird. Alter, ich krieg die Krise. Also.
A soft wind blew outside and perhaps rain started.
Was?
And if it did, it stopped shortly after. Stanley hoped that he would one day see weather.
Warte mal, das hat er eben nicht gesagt. Aber das stimmt, warum sehen wir es draußen? Warum denke ich mir sowas nicht und sobald er anfängt davon zu reden, denke ich drüber nach. Das Spiel macht mich wahnsinnig, ey.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Weil ein Horrorspiel, das kann ich nicht spielen, da bin ich nicht dafür. Das Spiel, ein Horrorspiel, keine Ahnung, das scheißt mir in die Hosen. Aber dieses Spiel
Yet there
macht
was
mich
not a
einfach
single
wahnsinnig.
person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Na gut. Könnt doch ins Badezimmer gehen. Das Bad ist geschlossen. Ah, Glück gehabt, Story. Glück gehabt. Moment mal, das Büro sieht anders aus.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number. 2 845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
Verdammt, ich hab nicht aufgepasst. Warte. Nein. Nein. Shit. Und hat das gerade selbst eingegeben?
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device, Stanley simply began entering random codes into the keypad, knowing full well the sheer statistical unlikely. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Moment mal. Das Ding verdeckt das sonst hier doch gar nicht. Hui! Das ist die Kamera. Ich wette, bestimmt hätte sich hier oder so eine Tür geöffnet. Hätten wir beim ersten Mal den richtigen Code eingegeben. Und jetzt macht er mich schon wieder wahnsinnig. Will ich auch nicht runter. Ich will erst mich hier umsehen. Ich sehe da nichts, da gehe ich nicht hin. Ich gehe nirgendwo hin, wo ich nichts sehe. Gut. Loading. Ah, wir haben schon mal nichts falsch gemacht. Das ist doch schon mal gut.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Alter, ich hab so eine Abneigung gegen Dunkles.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. Mind Control Facility. Escape. Ich sag's dir rechts. Oder? Nee, mein Kopf wird nicht. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
Scheiße. Was machen wir denn jetzt? Ich bin verwirrt. Ah! Wenn ich da lang gehe, sterbe ich. Aber da will ich nicht hin. Der Kopf kontrolliert. Ich kann mich nicht entscheiden. Ah. Ah. Hilfe. Nein, bitte nicht. Aber wisst ihr was? Ob ich jetzt da lang gehe, oder da lang gehe und sterbe, oder auch nicht sterbe, da lang gehe, wenn mein Kopf kontrolliert wird, oder auch nicht kontrolliert wird, bis dahin, macht mir eine kleine, oder nicht kleine Pause. Ich danke nicht fürs Zusehen. Oder vielleicht auch nur fürs Zuhören. Weiß es nicht. Ich weiß auch das nächste Mal rein. In einer neuen Folge. 2170. Ciao!